She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
If you try and fail and you fall and you stay down, then we got an issue.
Yes,
you got to get
that's
back
a totally
up.
different problem.
It's a completely different problem.
Yeah.
But you got to try. You got to be willing to try. You got to be willing to fail. And then you got to take the learnings of that failure and move it on to the next thing.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. You just heard a little bit of my conversation with social media executive Beverly Jackson. In this episode, we're talking about what it's like to represent the biggest entertainment companies on social, the truth about failure and how to do it right, and what it was like to meet Lady Gaga, because these are the things that matter. We have a lot to get into today, but for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino and I will be your host. I'm a YouTube creator, podcaster, business coach, public speaker, and best-selling author. I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. You can find out more details about me by visiting youtube.com/AMYTV. Very excited that we have yet another amazing conversation from MGM's Women's Leadership Conference that I attended. If you listened to the last episode, you know what the deal is. But basically, we have MGM to thank for this. Not only are they the sponsor of this episode, they sponsored the podcast to come out to the conference to represent, and we talked to a lot of fabulous women speakers, but also some pretty dope people that work at MGM, including Beverly, who we're talking to today. So I just want to quickly shout her out in advance to thank her, because if not for Bev, we would not have been able to get out there and do this. And she's the reason I was at the conference in the first place. So really amazing opportunity, super grateful for it. And she has just done some incredible work in her career, and you are about to hear about it. So I cannot wait to share it with you. I am not going to waste any time. It is time to get into it with my next guest. Today I'm sitting down with Beverly Jackson, Vice President of Social Marketing at MGM International. A woman in digital, Beverly has been in social since 1995, working for major companies such as Yahoo, the Grammys, and now MGM. She was kind enough to ask me to host this podcast at their fabulous annual event, and trust me, it made this chat even more fun. So Beverly, let's get into it. Beverly Jackson.
Amy!
Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I love people. I love entertainment. I love media. I love innovation. And I'm really focused right now on the next generation of young women and empowering them and making the life cycle of their journey from point A to D or Z a lot shorter than mine. I don't want them to have to go through nearly the hurdles in this space, in this business, in this time. I want them to have access to anything and everything their hearts and their minds desire. And so I do it for them. And I do it because I love it and having a good time.
I love that. That's such a good answer. So you're the VP of Social Marketing for MGM Resorts International. We're actually right now at the MGM's 13th Annual Women's Leadership Conference. You asked me to come here to podcast. And I was like, no one's ever asked me to do that before. I'm like so excited. So thank you for having me.
No, I think it's a great opportunity to have a whole new generation of people see what it is that you do. And it's a part of that thing. You asked me, like, why do I do what I do? It's a part of that thing. It is literally looking for ways to challenge the conventional wisdom. And if you can do a live speech, if you can do a Facebook Live, it's podcasting and being accessible to as many people as possible is the next wave and the next generation, because it's so weird, because it's like what's old is new again.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. It's like if you look at history and you don't live in the past, but if you just look at trends, you start to see how they pop up again, even in something like social media.
It's like bad fashion.
Right. Yes, absolutely. It always pops back up. So how long have you been in this industry, in social or in marketing, or what does that look like for you?
God. This will just tell way too many secrets, but I've been doing this digital marketing in some shape, form, or fashion since 1995.
So what did it look like in 1995?
In 1995, I worked in an ad agency. I was actually an account executive. I originally took the job to be an account executive. And for my birthday that year, my husband bought me AOL. And I know people are like, wait, what do you mean he bought you AOL?
Oh my gosh, I
people
know
don't
what
remember.
you're talking about. Because I wasn't, this is, okay, I'm going to age myself too, but I was in the 5th grade. So like, this is when I was like getting really like, what is a computer? Oh my God, the internet, AOL, Instant Messenger kind of came a little bit later when it was like, we need something a little bit that's free or whatever.
Yep.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So my husband, one year for my birthday, paid $9 and bought me an AOL disc that we loaded onto our home computer.
Oh my God, remember when you had to buy a disc? Oh my God.
It was the best. So I got an AOL subscription that was supposed to cost $9 a month. And that wound up the first month, it was like $600. Because remember, you used to get charged for your access. And so you would go over your 90 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. And I never looked back. Like I was hooked from that point.
You're like,
forward.
Oh my God, that was $600. Let's keep it up.
I've been at some point, I was like, okay, we got to figure out a way to manage this. I'm gonna have to stop buying shoes.
Right.
And that's a no. So
it's getting too easy.
So I went into the agency that I was working at, and there was a small startup that the agency had purchased that was working on a way to, I was working at J. Walter Thompson, JWT Specialized Communications. And they were working on a project of how to digitize resumes or how to make resumes more readily accessible. And, with my vast experience in the internet from AOL,
of course,
I convinced them to let me walk away from my account executive duties with my accounts like Mattel and JPL, and I think I had Disney as well. So I convinced them to let me walk away from that and work on this new project. And effectively what we were doing was scanning resumes and then sorting them and putting them on a disc with an OCR reader and then mailing the disc to recruiters so that recruiters wouldn't have to go through paper resumes. They could go through this digital source, and digital is a stretch because we're talking about a little floppy disk.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that far back, so it wasn't a floppy disk. It was that little 3.5-inch one.
It was like, we're saving trees,
exactly.
okay?
We're saving
like,
trees and
get on board.
some foil trees, some magnetic trees someplace. And so every Friday we would assemble these resumes on this disc, and then we would mail them out to people, to subscribers.
Oh my gosh.
And so I did that at the agency, and I was basically the digital marketing person for that. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. I learned so much by being in the structure of this agency and working with clients and understanding how to put products in front of clients and create a brand. But then on the other part, I worked with this entrepreneur, this guy who was running this little company that the agency sort of picked up. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. Like, I was like, oh my God, an entrepreneur. I kind of love this idea. And then I just was involved in a series of startups after that, and made my way over after a number of years, made my way over to Tribune Interactive, who at the time owned a bunch of newspapers like the Chicago Tribune and some others, and they were going through disruption. So I always talk about my career in sort of like 3 phases. And so the first phase in working at the ad agency, working at JWT, was all about disrupting HR and sort of how recruiters get information. And so instead of waiting for the resumes to come to you in a lockbox in paper that somebody had to type out from the Sunday paper, that time period really sort of revolutionized how we apply for jobs. And then the second phase of my career, so that's like J. Walter Thompson Tribune, and that's that whole disruption of publication, disruption of HR. So Tribune allowed me to then look at like sort of how do we disrupt publications? And so do I really wait for the news to get a newspaper to tell me sort of like what's happening in the world?
Yeah.
And it was the time of like the beginning of sort of like Google and the indexing of the internet, if you will, with like all the Yahoo stuff. And that was super cool. Went through that, the .com bubble, survived that. And then sort of migrated my way over to entertainment and out of media and into entertainment, wound up at the Grammys. And I got there, and their whole marketing program was about a step and repeat with logos on the back. And I was like, okay, that's logo soup. And in this world of digital marketing, that doesn't work. We need some additional assets or something.
We need to grow up a little. Yes, you've nailed the step and repeat. Exactly. Congratulations.
Stick it. You're a 10. 10's all across for the step and repeat. And so we did that, and that was super cool. And just bringing sort of, so it was a really interesting time because media was, appointment television was sort of disappearing. And the idea that someone would sit down on a Sunday to watch a television show was sort of null and void.
Right.
Like people weren't doing that. So we needed to find a way to sort of break that down, and social was ripe for that. Like social was at the perfect time. The Twitter sort of Foursquare space at the time, and then bringing on Facebook and letting Facebook sort of slowly evolve from being about talking to your friends in college to actually brands getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as they say, the rest is history. And so then that brings me to here.
It's so amazing. I just want to point something out. I love that you, first of all, have this broken down into phases of just sort of like what exactly was happening each of these times. But the thing that stands out to me is just going all the way back to the AOL CD, right? When you had a job at a place, it was defined. This is your scope of work. This is what you have to do. And you thought, I kind of want to try this other thing. You said something about it. You know, it's like, you didn't wait to have X amount of experience that nobody could have even defined at the time. You probably couldn't have even learned any of this stuff. Definitely not in college. You know, it's like, where would you learn this unless you did it? And you basically just said, hey, I want to give this a try. If we're going to do this digital thing in the company, let me help. And leveraged any history or your track record in the company that you had to say, you know, let me do this. And I think that there's something to be said about that, where if somebody's in a position and they wish they were doing something else, they don't love their job, but there might be an opportunity where they are to build on the relationships that they already have. You know, what can you do there? Can you step up and say, I'd love to give it a try? Even if maybe in some situations you're not going to pay off financially right away for it, you can at least have a situation of people who've already built trust with you to say, sure, yeah, you want to throw in?
You know, the interesting thing about digital and about social and transformation is I have like two general rules that I apply to that. One of them is really simple. Be brave. Like, be brave enough to try. Like, you can't sit on the sidelines, because the activity, the activation, the experience, the opportunity won't come to you if you're on the sidelines. So you got to get in the game. And that means you got to find the courage. You got to find the inner strength. You got to find a kick in the butt, a kick in the pants, whatever it is to get you in off the sidelines. And so that's the first thing, is this idea of like, be brave. And then you got to really actually try and fail. And I really feel strongly that like, you have to be willing to speak up for yourself, but you have to also be willing to fail. And so managing those expectations. I tell people on my team, I'm never going to be angry with you or upset with you or frustrated with you or disappointed in you if you try and fail. If you try and fail and you fall and you stay down, then we got an issue.
Yes,
you got to get back
that's a totally
up.
different problem.
It's a completely different problem.
Yeah.
But you got to try. You got to be willing to try. You got to be willing to fail. And then you got to take the learnings of that failure and move it on to the next thing.
I love this because there's something interesting about this fail conversation. I think it's finally coming up where everyone says, feel free to fail. Like, you've got to do it. And then it's still something that people fear because they're actually thinking, oh, I'm going to have to fail, but then what do I do? Or my boss isn't going to be okay with me failing. And it just occurred to me, kind of on maybe because we were talking about HR a little bit, when they ask you in the interview, do you have any questions for us? And you're always supposed to have a question when they say that, by the way. You can't be like, nope, love it. Offer me the job, please.
Thanks.
Like, no, you have to ask a question. Why not ask the question, how do you feel about failure? How do you handle it? And how do you nurture your employees to get beyond it?
So I think one of the things that I think is interesting, and so we certainly are going through this at MGM, but one of the things that's sort of interesting is lots of companies are talking about digital transformation.
Yeah.
And we make this assessment or this assumption that transformation occurs in sort of this hockey stick trajectory straight up.
Everybody wants the hockey stick.
That's not how
It's not.
transformation works. Transformation is more like what happens when there's an earthquake and you see that little seismograph like going up and down, or what happens when you talk to a perpetual liar or habitual liar in sort of a lie detector. That little monitor is going up and down, up and down, up and down. That's what transformation looks like. And if you're one of those companies that gets lucky enough to sort of fail and trip upwards, awesome, great. If you're one of the few people that gets to do that in your career, awesome. But that's not how my career looks. And that's not how anybody who's truly sort of embraced transformation at that level, that's not how any of that looks.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be willing to fail, and you got to be comfortable with it, because there's that, I don't even know where this came from. I don't know who's even responsible for saying it, so I'm probably going to misquote someone, but you'll get the sentiment, is that nothing beats a failure but a try. Like, if you don't try, you can't fail. Like, they go hand in hand.
So something kind of interesting is sometimes like failures happen and there's absolutely nothing you can do to control it. There was obviously a huge tragedy in Vegas a couple years back. I don't remember when, that MGM ultimately from a PR standpoint became associated with, and you were actually here when that happened. How did you guys even approach that?
At MGM, public relations, corporate communications, and social communications sort of go hand in hand. We're all very closely tied together. We have as a part of the social media mission statement at MGM, we say that we're the first in, last out. So we're the first ones to hear about something and we're the last ones to be dealing with it, even as other parts of the organization have moved on. And this is a societal issue, and this tragedy was a societal tragedy. It didn't happen to MGM. It happened to our city, and it didn't happen to just our city. It's happening to our country. And so it's a much broader conversation. But as it relates to sort of how the social media team handled that night, so I don't know how much people sort of know about my career, but I was managing the Grammys the day that Whitney Houston passed.
Oh my God, no, I didn't know that.
So I was head of social the night that Whitney Houston passed.
Wow, that's another crazy one.
Yeah.
That was during Grammy weekend. Like that was so.
It was
that
the
was
night
a
before the
tragedy.
Grammys, and it was during the Clive Davis Grammy party that Saturday night, and the next day was Sunday, and it was Grammy Sunday. So I also was at Yahoo during the during some unfortunate incidents with regard to like data and stuff like that. And I think email went down one day when I was in charge of social.
Which is not good.
It's like not good.
Like,
It's
guys,
not good.
We need the email
So
working.
in the course of my career, over the last 10 years, I've sort of been involved in these
Crises.
crises. I think
No
there's not an
matter
easy way to
whose
say it.
crisis
Yeah,
they are,
it is.
they touched you.
So there are a couple things that I always say sort of non-generically about how you should manage social in situations like this. And simply put, you have to be a part of this living, breathing organism. So to me, managing a crisis on social doesn't begin with the actual crisis. And so my team in so many ways was prepared for the opportunity that we might have to manage some communications issue. We certainly were not prepared in any shape, form, or fashion for the horrific acts of that night. But we listen, we're in touch with our audience, we're always online, we're always sort of trying to understand what the conversation is. You know, I talk about social being this living, breathing thing. And so brands oftentimes will put a message out there and then they'll walk away from it. And they'll schedule posts and they'll walk away from it. And that's simply not how you do this in a modern era.
That's not how you build relationships, and that's what we're doing.
And we're in the hospitality business. We're in the hospitality. It's not how you care for your guests. It's not how you care for your guests. You don't just put a message out into the ecosystem and then walk away. And so for us, that means that we're constantly having conversations back and forth with guests. And we don't always do it publicly, but sometimes we do it behind the scenes. And so that was the first step. And that was the thing that sort of kept us a part of this. It kept us in front of the conversation. We can't argue with someone online. We talk right now about thoughts and prayers, and thoughts and prayers aren't simply enough. You can't just put that out into the ecosystem and think that people will be gracious enough with you. And so this is when you lean into your brand DNA. This is when you lean into who you are. And I think everything that had happened to me in a role similar sort of prepared me for that night. And I can't tell you that there aren't days and times that I don't think about it. It stays with you. It's a part of who you will be if you're a part of this community. And to be quite honest with you, when things happen that aren't even in our market, I think about what our brand should be doing. There isn't a cabana or a dinner or a show ticket or anything that's more important than celebrating and uplifting and supporting the community at that point. And so that's kind of how I approach it.
I love that. Well, I just, that's so much life experience that you would never want, but also just it teaches you so much. And I know that the people that are working with you can probably learn a lot about handling the good and the bad. And so let's talk a little bit more about the good. Okay. You've worked for the Grammys, you work for MGM now. Some of the famous people you've met, who are they and were they cool?
So I have a tendency to not be a fan of famous people.
Why?
So I just I'm not like a stargazer.
They're amazing right now.
Like they are. Like, I mean, 6 years at the Grammys and I've seen everybody and everyone and been
for sure.
I remember being on the red carpet and someone was yelling at me behind me. And this was like Grammy Sunday or on the red carpet, sort of like the big stars. One of the things that you learn
what are you doing on the red carpet that night? Like, what's your role?
I'm activating social. Like, we were one of the first people to actually put a social media stop on the red carpet.
Oh, wow.
Instagram had their first red carpet moment at the Grammys. We had Facebook there, Twitter there. We'd give them a spot on the red carpet and say, do your thing. And that was our way of getting easy, low-hanging fruit content when the platforms all wanted to be there on music's biggest nights. So it was super easy, right? Yes and no. And so what most people don't know about the Grammys is the red carpet has two sides. It has an A side and a B side. So it has the paparazzi or media facing side, which all the big A-list celebrities walk down, and some of the A-list and B-list celebrities walk down. And then if you're like a C-list or a D-list celebrity or just a random, you walk down the back end of the carpet, which is mostly where most people go.
Excuse me, you go over there.
Excuse me, you go the back way. But on the front side of the carpet, two things that kind of stick out. The first year we did the Grammys, we did something called the Social Media Rockstar Summit, because I recognized very early on that the most famous people at the Grammys that year were not the celebrities. They were actually people that ran Facebook, Twitter, Instagram didn't exist at the time, but like they were those people, MySpace. And so what we did was we had the head of Tumblr, Evan Biz so David Karp was there. We had Kevin Rose was there. I can't think of Courtney's last name, but he was like the last big president of MySpace at the time. We had Evan Biz from Twitter there. We sort of really tried everything we could do to get Mark Zuckerberg there, but it's at the same time as Davos. And so we couldn't get a Falcon to get them all here fast enough. Oh my God. But we have this great photograph of like all these amazing social media rock stars on the A side of the carpet.
Oh, wow.
Like in front of paparazzis, and all these people are like, who are those people? Who are those
they look
random
very
guys?
normal.
There's a group of nerds on the red carpet. Who are these people? We're like, take their picture. This picture's going to be famous one day. Exactly. They probably didn't listen to me, but I have the pictures. That's one of my greatest moments. And then my second greatest moment is I think this was the year that Rude Boy, the big Rihanna breakout year, and I was walking down the carpet, and behind me, somebody said, "Get out of the way, coming through," which is typically what security yells when
they're trying to rush.
They're trying to move people along, and the doors are closing, so we need to get people in. And I think I turned around, and I was just like so annoyed that someone was yelling at me, and my head spun around, and I was like, "The word is excuse me," and I turn around and I look back, and I'm like, "Holy crap, it's Rihanna!" I was like, "My bad, you can go."
Rihanna was like, "You're right.
You're right."
Yeah.
I was like,
"You're right." But I mean, I really need to get through.
I was like, "No problems. You go.
You should probably be there on time."
You're Queen Riri. You go. You're gonna get an award. I'm not. You go. And then I think I had this experience where I met BB King one of my first years, and this is an awful story. And I don't know if I could tell this story, but this is an awful story. Okay. But it's a good story. It's a good story, an awful story. So So the first year I did the Grammys, I didn't realize that you shouldn't ever wear like 6-inch heels. And so I had these beautiful Escada suede cutout 6-inch heel boots. They were stunning. And this cute little wrap dress. And I was like, I work here. I'm not getting an award. I shouldn't be dressed like this. But I didn't know. It was my first year and I wanted to look cute because it's the Grammys, right? So we walk into the green room and BB King was there, and my dad was like a massive BB King fan. And so I just wanted to shake his hand, and he wanted to meet me. I think he wanted to meet me because I was one of the few brown girls there. And so I walk over to him and I was like, "Mr. King, I just want to say you're amazing, and I love your music, and you're a legend, and it's so nice to meet you." And he's in a wheelchair. So I'm sort of bent over in these 6-inch heel boots. And he was just smiling and so happy. And he was like, you're amazing and you're incredible and you're so talented. So I was like, oh, somebody must have told him about me. And I realized he was looking down my shirt.
Listen,
whatever works.
It happens, right? You know, it was a good moment for both of you.
You
I
said
think.
famous people.
I love it. That was the best one. BB King is like legend.
But you know, MGM is full of entertainment, so I meet tons of people here all the time. But I don't really think about that most of the
You
time.
just had Gaga recently, right?
OMG, Gaga. So, okay, I got to tell you this story really quickly.
Okay.
One of my best friends, we went to high school and college together. His name is Michael Bearden, and he's like this very famous conductor, music producer. And Michael's currently Gaga's music producer, her musical director. And so if you come to see the piano and jazz show at Park Theater, which I think is amazing, by the way, I was just in awe. So I had an opportunity to go to the show and I could see my friend Michael, who I've known since I was 14, up there in a do-rag and a full-on tail and tux, like full-on bow tie, tails, the whole thing. And so Michael's just, conducting this 32-piece orchestra and Gaga's amazing. And I'm gravitating between the two of them. And I'm like, this is a life-changing event. And so afterwards, we all sort of go over to Nomad Bar and have like a drink afterwards. And Brian Newman is now doing a Nomad After Dark show there. And sometimes Gaga stops by. And so I wanted to see Michael. Like I really wasn't focused on Gaga. I wanted to see Michael. I hadn't seen him in a really long time. And he and I are super good friends. And he comes to town and I'm busy, he's busy. So Michael comes over, he gives me a hug, we're standing at the bar, and then all of a sudden he goes, I'll be right back. And he comes back like 2 minutes later and someone's talking to me, one of my colleagues was talking to me, but over my colleague's right shoulder, I see Gaga. And she comes right in, gives me a hug, and like gives me a hug and a kiss, like twice. And I was like speechless. I was like, first of all, she's teeny. Yeah. And I'm like, how do you get all that voice and all that dancing out of this little human? But she was amazing and she was so sweet and so gracious. Michael went to go get her and was like, well, any friend of Michael is a friend of mine. Oh. And she told me the story about how she was the one who told him he had to wear the do-rag while he was while he's conducting. And I was like, she's such a badass. I love her.
That is awesome. Oh my God.
And it's funny because I've seen her like 15 times at the Grammys, but I never met her. Yeah. And then I met her that night and I was like speechless.
Totally different.
And I'm never speechless, as you can tell.
Which is why we're happy to have you here. Okay, cool. Well, now I want to get into the details before you have to head off because I know you've got a lot going on at this event. Okay. So, all right. Walk me through a typical morning routine for you.
Oh, morning. Start off with a conference call between our PR and corporate communications team and social from around the country. So we have a morning call every morning, and that's the first thing we do. And then I get my coffee, and at least 2 hours before that call, I've already read the internet, so I'm able to like see all of our social listing reports. And
do you wake up first thing in the morning and like read like what's going on?
Yes, my phone sleeps next to me. I have 3 phones.
What?
Yes, I have 3 phones.
And do they all sleep next to you?
2 of them. Okay. My iPhone is with me, but basically my Samsung Note is like I'm attached to it and it's near me all the time. But
what's your like personal go-to? Which one is your work phone? Which like is that
so
how
my
it works?
iPhone is my work phone.
Okay.
But my Samsung Note is like that's where my life is.
Yeah.
Like that like secret, double top secret. That's where my life is. Like that's like people ask me all the time, like you travel a lot. Like what do you that's where I read my books, that's where I watch my movie. That's where it is.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so then we get through the call. I go to the office and meet with the team. We usually have a meeting about content and social and sort of like what's happening. And then I meet with my executive director of business intelligence. And so she sort of says, what's the data stuff? What's happening with the numbers? I'll go and meet with different team members. And then I'm basically in meetings all day, back and forth to our C-suite. Our C-suite's very involved in social here. So whether I'm meeting with our CMO or our chairman, tons of meetings. And then I probably go to dinner and I may go to a show or check out one of our clubs. And then I get home at about like 10 o'clock and I start all over again.
Like every day you do that?
That's pretty much my day.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So when I get an opportunity to cook at home, I'm excited about that.
Oh my God.
Because mostly I eat here on property because I have meetings after work.
Okay, where's your favorite place to eat at MGM?
In the MGM network? Or MGM brand?
Sure. I mean, I guess like one for the day-to-day and one that's like, oh my gosh, like this is actually my favorite.
So, my favorite restaurant in the network, and people will yell at me about this and there'll be a great debate about it. My favorite restaurant in the network is Heritage Steakhouse at the Mirage and the Seafood Tower. It is the best restaurant. I love it. It's kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah, I haven't been there.
I will take you.
Okay.
It's amazing. They cook the steak on these open grills. They have these amazing seafood dishes. I love it. It's my favorite.
Oh my gosh.
It's my favorite.
Okay, that's good. We have to go there.
Okay.
Who inspires you when it comes to style?
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Oh, I love
Tracy
her.
Ellis Ross. Like, I want her hair. Like, I'm like working on my
really close.
But I'm working on my curl game because I love Tracy Ellis. Like, she's thick in the thighs, and I appreciate that for a girl that's got curves, and she's working it. And she's like my style icon. I love her. She can go from jeans and sneakers to like couture, and I love it.
Yeah. Okay. How do you stay? Do you stay organized? Do you consider yourself pretty organized?
Complete hot mess.
A hot mess. Okay.
I'm a borderline hoarder. The rumor is that I have like a Mary Poppins bag, and I will pull out anything from Advil to a needle and thread to a contract that is like 40 pages. You just never know. You never know what's going to come out of that bag. So I'm not organized at all.
What in terms of digital, like how do you then go through your day? Like, are you reading your calendar top to bottom? Are you checking your email to figure out what you need to do next?
Completely schizophrenic. I'm all over the place. I'm on Twitter. I'm on my calendar. I'm looking for the paper version of it. Completely schizophrenic, all over the place. It's like my beautiful mind in there. Yeah. In my mind, it's all organized.
Got you.
But the goal is to get in my mind.
Exactly. So, yeah. You just got to do you. You just have to get to your level.
Erica Kurtz, who is like my number 2 on the team. Erica's my executive director. She's like, I'm your mental Sherpa. Like, I will tell the rest of the world what you're thinking. And, and so I write on the board a lot. So like when I'm a natural teacher, so I know you know this, I teach at UNLV part-time. Mm-hmm. And so part of my thing is I write constantly. So if you're ever in a meeting with me, you take a picture of the whiteboard because that's the plan. Yeah. I just write it down on the board.
Gotcha. Are you a big reader?
Huge reader.
What's a book that you can recommend that was a game changer in your opinion?
I can't remember who wrote this book, but I read it and I keep it. It's a part of my collection. It's called Getting to Yes.
Oh, yes. And who writes that?
I can't remember who wrote it, but it's an amazing book. It's probably
I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's probably only like 50 pages.
Those are the best though, when you can have like an aha moment in a flight. Or less. I
never really am in a big disagreement with people because I'm always trying to figure out how to get to yes. Like, I'm trying to figure out a solution. Like, it's not to be right or wrong. Like, you and I need to find a way to find a common path. So getting to yes has always worked for me. It's been my go-to book since grad school.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Okay, where can everybody follow you? See what you're doing online. Everything in terms of following you online. Where can we do that? You're so much fun. People are going to want to follow.
I'm at BevJack in most places. So at BEVJACK, because some lady in Florida tried to jack me. She literally tried to get it. She tried to jack me, and she's like Bev Jack JAC, and I'm like, hey, lady. Anyway, I'm sure she's a real estate agent. I think I'm sure she's a lovely person.
Not ideal for search, but
exactly. So I'm at Bev Jack everywhere. If you Google me, you can't miss me because it's my picture and stuff like that. So
perfect. Okay, in just a couple minutes, I want to record a secret show with you. Are you up for it?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
It'll be quick. I promise. Okay. Before we can get to that, and you can find out more details about the secret show in Shine Squad at patreon.com/AMYTV. I want to ask you my final question for the official show. And that is, what does it mean to you to go after the life that you want?
The opportunity to go after the life that I want is all about truth, power, and purpose. So I live my truth every day to find my power, to stand in my purpose. I was put here for a reason, and I'm looking for that every day in everything I do.
Thank you, Beverly Jackson, for being on the show.
You're most welcome, Amy.
And thanks for having me at the conference.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you.
Beverly, thanks again for having me out to the Women's Leadership Conference, and I can't wait to continue to share some amazing chats that we had while we were there. Make sure you check her on social at BevJack, BEVJACK, like she said. We'll link to it in the show notes. But let's catch some of the details. First, you got to look at the problem for what it actually is. This seems to be the continuing theme that we heard from Beverly when it comes to handling crises or things that happen that are out of your control. Look at the problem as it actually is and do your best to handle it like a human, especially being in social and being behind the logo of a major company. This This can be really difficult, takes a lot of skill and a great team. And Beverly clearly has figured a lot of that out over her time in this industry. But if you are doing it for yourself or you're doing it for a smaller company, take that advice and think about it really. What is the problem here? Let's look at what it is on a deeper level. And therefore, how do you want to handle yourself? How do you want to present your brand accordingly? You can't go fighting with the trolls, like she said. So identify the problem and handle it with the grace that you have within that brand that you've designed. Next, failure is what you make of it. Again, what is the real problem, right? You can fail and you can not get up, but that's not going to get you anywhere. We're failing every day. There's something that fails every single day. It's just a matter of how much you build it up in your mind and how much you let it bring you down. So allow yourself to fail, but also know that these are opportunities to learn, and they're not going to be good failures if you don't actually do something to learn from them. So we always say fail forward, and we always say, like, why are people saying we should fail? It's very hard to actually open your mind to that happening. But the reality is that it happens all the time. You can't control it, and it's a matter of how you present yourself. Finally, have the audacity to shoot for something if you want it. Beverly basically had AOL experience from a disc. I mean, she was probably buying amazing shoes and learning about e-com in turn, but come on. I mean, what was the experience there? It was more just the ability to say, hey, I've learned a few things. I've picked a few things up. I'm good. I got this. I can figure this out. Let me have that position. Let me try. Let me dabble in this. Let me take the business to the next level, because I think I can think bigger than this, than the red tape or whatever else is going on in the organization. Look for those opportunities. You know, when we heard from Ashley last week, there's a lot of jobs that don't have descriptions yet because they don't actually exist. Where can you find the white space to design something that you could be good at if you had the audacity to shoot for it? I think Bev was an amazing example of that. That was such a great chat. I'd love to hear if you would like some more really good advice in your earbuds. I can send you some simple steps for living your best life every day, and that is through my free audio training with the 7 essential details for going after the life that you want. You can easily receive this audiogram by simply leaving a review on this podcast, taking a screenshot of it, and sending it over to hello@detailspodcast.com with audiogram please in the subject line. No strings attached. We will get that audiogram over to you ASAP. And your reviews mean a lot to me. Please be authentic and be honest with me, because I'm only trying to make this show for you. I mean, it's definitely fun for me, but I want it to get better, and you've got to give me that direction. So share your favorite parts, share what you'd like to see in the future. You can do that in the review section for the podcast. Don't forget to listen to Bev's segment, The Secret Podcast, over in Shine Squad. That's at patreon.com/AMYTV. It is so much fun. We just chat for a couple of minutes about some really fun rapid fire questions. And there's also a lot of other amazing features of Shine Squad, including a dope community of people who will lift you up and help you go after the life that you want. Check that out at patreon.com/AMYTV. Link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. As always, make sure you discover more actionable details over at AMYTV by visiting youtube.com/AMYTV or searching YouTube for AMYTV. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life that you want. Cheers.